All right. What's up, everybody? I'm back. There's nobody here. Awesome. Let's go. All right. So first up, before we get into the Podesta plan, I got another channel for you guys. This channel here has some real, like, old school conspiracy vibes going on. Whoops. I always forget to mute that. Mute. All right. So he does kind of like the old school style where he does montages, bringing in imagery from, TV movies, plays, and different media sources, the news, stuff like that, and kind of creates a narrative that shows. The only way to explain it is that it creates a narrative that shows the brainwashing that comes from TV and the media in a very illustrative way that I really can't explain. You can only understand by watching these videos. And like a lot of the old school conspiracy people will know about these type of videos where you just kind of watch them and they show certain instances of things that are happening in society, and he connects it in such a genius way that it's almost undeniable, and he's not even making any arguments really in the video. Now, I haven't watched this video yet, but I did want to talk quickly about the Project Bluebeam, because I think that's what he's alluding to here, the Cosmic Christ incoming, a lie too big to fail, right? With Shaking My Head Productions. The link is in the description. And then so we'll come over here and check out this, which is this guy, Sergey Monistat, or Monist. Now, according to this article in Wikipedia, Sergey was a Canadian conspiracy theorist who was known as the creator of the Project Bluebeam conspiracy theory, basically. And what the Project Bluebeam conspiracy theory was that it was a theory which posits a plot to facilitate a totalitarian world government by destroying Abrahamic religions and replacing them with a New Age belief system using futuristic NASA technology and involving a faked alien invasion or fake extraterrestrial encounter meant to deceive nations into uniting under a new world government. Right, so that's his basic thesis, right? And when you first hear it, it might sound insane, but after a while of listening to it, it sounds less insane. And hold up one second. We can see that this is not the first time that something like this has happened, right? Because this happened in New Jersey, which is interesting that these drones that they were releasing like recently, remember that they were all flying over New Jersey, right? And a lot of people might not even remember this, but H.G. Wells in New Jersey, he read War of the Worlds over the radio, right? And people actually thought that there was an alien invasion happening, right? Here, let's get right here. The first half of the program was delivered in a realistic breaking news format. Oh, they just did that. That was cool, right? It's just a test. It wasn't a test, right? Since the Mercury Theater on the air had few commercial interruptions, the first break came after fictional reporters had described a devastating alien invasion and the fall of New York City. This apparently caused some confusion and fear amongst its listeners, though the scale of the panic is disputed. Popular legend holds that some of the radio audience may have been listening to the much more highly rated show, The Chase and Sanborn Hour, with Edgar Bergen on NBC, and switched to War of the Worlds during a musical interlude, thereby missing Wells' introduction of his show as a work of science fiction. However, modern research suggests that this only happened in rare instances. Officials became aware of the public's growing reaction while the show was still being performed live, and though there was some pressure to stop the production, it continued to its planned conclusion. There was widespread media outrage in the hours and days that followed. The program's news bulletin format was described as deceptive by some newspapers and public figures, leading to an outcry against the broadcaster's calls for regulations by the FCC. Wells apologized, right? But it's interesting, right, that, okay, so, right, when I was looking up Project Bluebeam before that came up, where, look, the first article is about the drones that appeared over New Jersey, right? See, since mid-November, thousands of people in New Jersey and New York have reported seeing drones in the sky, right? Because they just want to keep seeing how you're going to react to it. So they'll keep doing these things and seeing what people, because remember they were saying, oh, what is that? We don't know what it is. It could be aliens. It could be Russians. And they wanted to see what you were going to do. Right? So it's like, as much as they want to say stuff about Sergey, it's like we already have two examples here of, a type of like fake alien invasion being pushed on New Jersey already. Just interesting there. Right. So then we're going to get into this Podesta plan thing. Now, I'll be honest, there's not much on the Podesta plan. If you search the internet, I mean, obviously some people have some higher level information. I'm on the sucker level. But here we have an article that was written by Lionel Nation, where he kind of lays out his thesis for what the Podesta plan is, and it's basically following the Alinsky plan, and he's working with, a bunch of different people in the government, right? They've also got this Project Democracy, which seems very legitimate and it sounds very good, getting rid of authoritarianism, restoring democracy. But then when you scroll down and see, they say Project Democracy has criticized both Democrats and Republicans, but it seems like a lot of the people that they're going after definitely are more on the Republican side. Like they're trying to block people from monitoring voting, places where people drop off voting. They've gone after James O'Keefe. They work with border human rights. And now I'm not really too sure where I fall on the mail-in ballots versus like not having those. I just don't have enough evidence to make a decision on that. But you can see, okay, that's who Podesta's working with, Project Democracy. And he's also working with this Transition Integrity Project. Now, what's interesting about the Transition Integrity Project is that they have one of these things called a war game, right? Where before an event happens, and this has happened with a lot of events, a lot of mass rebooting events have had these type of war game scenarios before them. I'm not saying that anything happened, but it's just a coincidence, you know. And so these guys ran a war game. Podesta's working with the Transition Integrity Project. In the summer of 2020, the Transition Integrity Project conducted a series of wargaming exercises. The scenarios examined by the TIP included Game 1, Ambiguous. The first game investigated a scenario in which the outcome of the election remained unclear from election night throughout gameplay. The results from 3 states are in contention and ballots are destroyed in one of the states, making it unclear who should have won that state. Neither campaign is willing to concede. Game 2. Clear Biden win. Biden wins both the Electoral College and the popular vote. Trump alleges fraud and takes steps to benefit himself and his family, but ultimately hands the White House over to Biden. Game 3. Clear Trump win. The third scenario started with the Electoral College victory for President Trump, but the popular vote win for former Vice President Biden. In this scenario, Biden refused to concede, convinced the Democratic governors of 2 states that Trump won to send separate slates of electors to the Electoral College, encouraged 3 states to threaten secession, and convinced the House of Representatives to refuse to certify the election and declare Biden the victor. Interesting. Game 4, narrow Biden win. The final scenario explored a narrow Biden win where he leads with less than 1% of the popular vote and has a slim lead at 278 electoral votes. The Trump campaign sows chaos, but Senate Republicans and the Joint Chiefs of Staff eventually signal that they accept Biden's win. Trump refuses to leave and is removed by the Secret Service. So they had this all planned out before the election even happened. What are their conclusions? In August 2020, the TIP released a report outlining its findings and recommendations. The report stated, we, TIP, I guess, assessed that the president, I'm not sure what that means, assessed that the President Trump is likely to contest the result by both legal and extra-legal means in an attempt to hold power. Recent events, including the president's own unwillingness to commit to abiding by the results of the election, the Attorney General's embrace of the president's groundless electoral fraud claims, and the unprecedented deployment of federal agents to put down left-wing protesters, underscore the extreme lengths to which President Trump may be willing to go in order to stay in office. The report's intention was to inspire the necessary changes to ensure a fair election in 2020. These risks can be mitigated. The worst outcomes of the exercise are far from certainty. The purpose of this report is not to frighten, but to spur all stakeholders to action. Again, you see that word stakeholders, where we have what's called stakeholder capitalism. Wait, we'll get into that in a second. Oh, wait, sorry. He's not autocorrect. Okay. Understanding stakeholder capitalism, serving all interest. What is stakeholder capitalism? Stakeholder capitalism is a system in which corporations are committed to creating long-term value by serving the interest of all their stakeholders rather than only shareholders. Key stakeholders include customers, suppliers, employees, shareholders, and local communities. Top business leaders such as Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan and Chase, remember they were there at all the meetings to make sure that everybody was getting censored off the internet. And Mark Beinhoff of Salesforce Inc. have underscored the vast importance of the growing trend of stakeholder capitalism in the initial and ongoing success of not just corporations, but all of those involved in their operations. Let's just look at the key takeaways. Stakeholder capitalism emphasizes that corporations should prioritize the interest of all stakeholders, including employees, customers, and the community, rather than focusing solely on maximizing shareholder value. The concept stands in contrast to shareholder capitalism, which became dominant in the 1970s following Milton Friedman's theory that a company's primary responsibility is to increase profits for shareholders. In recent years, there has been a renewed interest in stakeholder capitalism, with leaders and organizations advocating for companies to engage in sustainable and ethical practices that benefit a diverse range of stakeholders. Some notable moves towards stakeholder capitalism include the business's roundtable. Notice roundtable. Whenever they're doing a roundtable, that means they're plotting and planning against you. That's what a round. We just saw that in Tragedy and Hope. The round tables, that they're creating these round table commissions. Whenever you see that, whenever you see something round table, and it's a meeting, and it's just rich people, and the public's not allowed to attend, you can just identify it. It's like, okay, public's not allowed to attend. It's called a round table, and there's just rich business owners there that like control the like corporations that control everything in the world, right? Okay. Some notable moves towards stakeholder capitalism include Business Roundtable's 2019 Statement on Corporate Purpose and the World Economic Forum's 2020 update of the Davos Manifesto, both supporting consideration for all stakeholders in business decisions. Criticisms of stakeholder capitalism suggest that giving more control to corporate leaders may lead to self-serving actions, arguing that an emphasis on shareholder value maintains competitiveness and efficiency. So they want to take away control of the corporations from the corporate leaders. They're working with the World Economic Forum, which works with the Bank for International Settlements, right? You see, it's like, it's too complicated to just give a quick elevator pitch about what this is. And that's why the people that are into this sound like we're insane to people that don't know what we're talking about, because they haven't studied it, and they don't, and they refuse to study it. They refuse because they hear one thing, and one conspiracy theorist gets one thing wrong, right? And so therefore, like, because like, say for instance, like that Sergey guy, he couldn't specifically prove exactly that there was a specific plan from the government called Project Bluebeam. So therefore all of his work was invalidated, even though the gist and the thrust of his thesis is correct. Right. Okay. Right. So if you need more evidence that these war game type scenarios exist, right, and they are real, and that, like I was saying before in a previous video, when I was saying that you guys don't think that these people can figure out what you're going to do next. This is what I meant. They're sitting here playing chess, putting all the possible players in there, right? And then running numerous scenarios through step by step to their logical conclusions to find the most probable outcomes, right? And once you know the most probable outcome, right, it makes it much easier for you to manipulate the inputs in order to get the outcome that you want, right? And I'm not saying that they're doing this. I'm not saying that. But look, we have more. It's always the people running the war game that are connected directly to the thing that's happening that they're going to profit from, gain more power from, right? So we look at this. Oh, wait. Where is it? Event 201, right? This happened before COVID happened, right? And it's a game, a war game, right? It's a war game that was run at Johns Hopkins University. No one's saying it predicted it. That's not what we're saying. We're not saying that it predicted it. See, right? Here we are. World Economic Forum again, right? Why are they everywhere? Why is the World Economic Forum just in everything, right? See, World Economic Forum, live simulation exercise to prepare public and private leaders for pandemic response, right? Like, you guys think we're all crazy. You guys think we're all crazy. We don't know what we're talking about. The world has seen a growing number of epidemic events amounting to about 200 per year. Pandemics could cause average annual economic losses of 0.07% of global GDP. Event 201 exercise will bring together public and private leaders to inform multi-stakeholder corporation for pandemic preparedness and response. Follow the live virtual exercise, right? Geneva, Switzerland, right? Johns Hopkins Center for Health and Security in partnership with the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, right? Bill Gates was making a huge, massive profit from vaccines and vaccine response during COVID. He's running the plan. He's running the war game to figure out what possible things that people could do or responses that people could give. And this is it. You can watch this right here on YouTube, right? 5 million views right there. The World Economic Forum, Bill and Melinda Gates, October 18th, 2019. They're running through war games. Oh, see, this is it, right? They're even running through possible ways that they're going to have to use the news, right? They're running through these situations. Look, they even have fake news broadcast preparing for how they're going to manipulate the public through the media. Look at it, and it's all right here in front of you, and they think that you're so stupid. That's what Mark Passio always said. He was in the Satanists. He was like a mid-ranked priest in the Church of Satan. And when he realized that it was a bunch of BS, he said, hey, I'm going to leave and I'm going to tell everybody what you guys are doing here. with all the sick stuff that you're doing, manipulating society and having like these secret organizations where you're infiltrating organizations in the society. You know what they said to him? They said, go ahead. They're so stupid. They're so stupid. You could tell all of them every single thing that we did, and they'll just blink at you and turn right back around and stuff another Cheeto in their mouth and watch TV. Well, they didn't say exactly that. I'm adding that. But that was the gist of what he was saying. And it's like, look, I'm not saying that COVID didn't exist, that illnesses didn't exist, but you have to admit that this part of it was premeditated. The response was premeditated to the point where they already had the vaccines. Those vaccines take years to develop, right? Watch Utopia, the British version, not the American version. It's just like The Office. It's just like The Office. Don't watch the American version. Watch the British version of Utopia. And if you haven't watched Utopia, mandatory conspiracy watch. I know it's like a 10-hour series or whatever. Just get on it. Utopia, the British version. If you watch the British version of Utopia and you went through COVID and you can't even admit that it was the response. I'm not saying that COVID isn't real, but that the response was not premeditated, completely pre-planned, and everybody was already in position to make profits, already in the position to make the profits. Right? And this is what it is. It's a pre-planned. They already knew what they were going to do. They already knew what you were going to do. They had already had it all planned out. They ran through, oh, well, this guy is going to think like this, and he's going to do this, and he's going to respond like this. This woman's going to think this, and they're going to do this, and they're going to respond like this. Okay, so if they respond like this, then how are we going to corral them into what we want them to do? Well, we're going to have to present some type of dialectic where there's one bad choice over here, another bad choice over here, and then the choice that we want them to make in the middle. That's the Hegelian dialectic. Right? So you can watch or you can look at one of those, what are they called? The fact checkers. And they'll say, oh, Podesta plan, zero connection, zero conspiracy. Podesta's a good boy, right? And no one's saying that he isn't. But you cannot deny the consistency in which these war games happen prior to an event. And the people that are involved in the war game are the same people that profit off of the event that they didn't know was going to happen. You see what I'm saying? It's a wrap. Like, you guys can try to deny this stuff all you want and just close your ears and no, it's not a war game. It's right here. It is. They're like, oh, if this happens, and this is what they're talking about in public, right? So you don't think that they have AIs running right now? Now I'm going into straight conspiracy mode. Everything I say after this is all just what's it called? Theory. So I'm saying, you don't think that they can take these super AIs right now, right? Think about it, right? Think how much information an AI could process. There's only 370 million people in the United States. They all have a number attached to them, an ID attached to them, most of them, right? So you don't think that they can create some type of computer simulation, say, let's say like a Sims type of thing, and use Google Maps and assign you a digital twin inside of a virtual world that's used to run simulations on society to find out how people are going to respond to certain events. Okay, we're going in. We're going in. Digital twin. Digital engineering redirects here. A digital twin is a digital model or an intended or actual real world physical product, system, or process that serves as a digital counterpart for it of it for purposes such as simulation, integration, testing, monitoring, and maintenance. A digital twin is a set of adaptive models that emulate the behavior of a physical system in a virtual setting, getting real-time data. What were they just talking about in the Bank of International Settlements? We're getting real-time data. Now we're using AI. Oh, I got to go back to that. Hold up. I was going to go into Peter Dinklage before. I was going to be like, can some communists show me, can some communists show me a dude with his build that's getting married? He's been married for 20 years, 25 years almost. All right. Here we go. Right. Say, central banks use AI alongside human expertise to better understand economies and enhance forecasting for policy analysis, right? What's a digital twin? A digital twin is a set of adaptive models that emulate the behavior of a physical system in a virtual setting, getting real-time data to update itself along its life cycle. The digital twin replicates the physical system to predict failures and opportunities for changing, to prescribe real-time actions for optimizing and or mitigating unexpected events, observing and evaluating the operating profile of the system. Though the concept originated earlier as a natural aspect of computer simulation generally, the first practical definition of a digital twin originated from NASA in an attempt to improve the physical model simulation of a spacecraft in 2010. Digital twins are the result of continual improvement in modeling and engineering, right? So they can create a system inside of a computer with a simulation and then run that simulation to find, like I just said, to find out what's going to happen when there are certain inputs put into a system and they want to get certain outputs, right? And you already saw they're working with the World Economic Forum, right? Wait, where is that? Oh, I think that was the other one. Sorry. But they're working with stakeholder capitalists, at least the Transition Integrity Project is, right? And then they're using AI to support financial stability analysis by identifying patterns in large data sets, meaning those large data sets are all of the transactions that we're making daily on the internet. That's what the data set, that's what other financial data do they want? They want all your transactions. They want to know what you're buying, what you're selling, where you live, how much you're buying it of, how much you're selling it of, right? In order for them to manipulate the market to make sure that you can never get ahead. Right? And people just want me to just shut up. They're just like, just shut up, man. Right? What are you talking about? Right? So it's like, of course that's what they're doing. And it's like, this is what I've been trying to get through to people. It's like they're running war games to figure out exactly what else are they doing? You know, you see what's going on, right? But I think the main point here is for people to understand that you think that you're going to outsmart this system just by, you know, I don't know, I don't know, whatever people think that they're doing. And except just rejecting this and saying, no, we do not want this. Like, I mean, what else is there to it? You know, they still got you like, oh, the immigrants are coming in and this and that. And yes, all that stuff is bad. All that stuff is bad. But they're the ones throwing it at us so that we can't take a step back and look at the fact that they're the ones that are throwing it at us. Right? Who do you think's blocking healthcare? Is it me? Am I blocking your healthcare? Am I blocking your healthcare? No. Who's blocking it? Them. Right? Am I opening the border? No. Am I opening the border? Who's opening the border? Them. It's the same people. The government. They're doing both things at once. Because they know how you're going to react to it. They got a digital twin of you in a computer somewhere. And they're running the program 24/7 and putting in different inputs and things and changing things around. They can change a law in the program and see what's going to happen 50 years from now. They can mess around with the interest rate and see what's going to happen in 10 years. And you guys are still here talking about who we going to vote for, man. Who we going to vote? Yo, you're cooked. You're cooked. All right. That was my research into the Podesta plan. Links available in the video description. Have a good day and peace.